Welcome back to the Point Guard Cast with your host Sean and Corey. I'm Corey.
I'm Sean. What's up, brother?
How you been doing, man?
I've been all right. What about yourself?
Been good. Been a little busy, but I've been good. How'd you like that All-Star weekend / day?
I mean, yeah, it was a day. That's exactly what it was because it wasn't a weekend. In terms of All-Star festivities, it wasn't a weekend, but it was fine for what it was. I guess it was. All-Star weekend's always fun. When you don't think too much about it, considering that most of the players probably didn't want to play in the game in the first place. But they still had fun. Obviously, you saw how Steph Curry and LeBron James were relative, and the fact that they were on the court at the same time on the same team for the first time. That was fun.
Right.
The whole dynamic between Damian Lillard and Steph Curry was fun. In terms of the All-Star Saturday night stuff that they did on Sunday night, the 3-point contest was fun. The dunk contest, on the other hand, it was okay. What you think about it?
I think the All-Star weekend was good. I think the biggest thing that I liked the most from All-Star weekend was what they did for charity and what they were able to do for the HBCUs.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were doing that. They were doing as much as they did for HBCUs for this All-Star weekend this year, and I thought that was dope.
Yeah, maybe that made it worth it for the players to go ahead and be like, okay, let's just go ahead and play this game and have some fun with it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think that's what they did. I think they were, because of the events of 2020, I think they were looking to do something with HBCUs, especially with Chris Paul pushing HBCUs so much lately. So I think it was cool that they were able to implement that into the All-Star game and All-Star weekend or All-Star day. But I do think it was
a weekend in terms of like getting what the purpose of All-Star weekend is to have players rest and get that little time to rejuvenate for the second half of the season. And I think that still was apparent for everybody else that wasn't an All-Star.
Right.
But in terms of having like a fan perspective, it wasn't really an All-Star weekend. There was no All-Star Saturday night, although they did do the stuff from All-Star Saturday night in the pregame and then at halftime with the dunk contest. But they didn't have like the rookie sophomore game, what they call that now, the USA versus the world game.
Yeah, US versus the world game. Yeah.
They didn't have that. They recognized the guys that were supposed to be recognized, but it would have been nice to see guys like LaMelo Ball out there playing. But the circumstances that we in obviously couldn't have that happen, but it would have been fun.
Right. I think another thing that I liked about All-Star Weekend was seeing Dame and Steph go at it on the same team.
That's what I said.
Pulling up, taking one step across half court, and then just pulling up for a three and making it. That was crazy to watch. It was so ridiculous.
And that's how Dame ended the game too. That was crazy to think about how a 20-point game can end so exciting. Like, have you ever thought about how a 20-point game can end exciting like that?
Yeah, only in an All-Star game.
Only in an All-Star game with this format. I like the format. And another thing about the dunk contest, I like how they ended the dunk contest. I might not have liked the dunk contest as much, but I like the judging of the dunk contest at the end where they chose a name instead of doing the number thing that they do. They should keep that around for the years to come.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's something they will keep around. I mean, there wasn't too many complaints about that part of the dunk contest on Twitter, but of course, Twitter did blow up with Cassius Stanley's dunk only getting a 44.
Oh yeah,
when it definitely should have been a 50.
Yeah, that was just because of his namesake. Because I guarantee if Obi Toppin did that same dunk, he would have got a 50. It's because people don't really know who Cassius Stanley is.
Okay, I can see that.
Since his time at Duke or whatever, or in high school or whatever, you know Cassius Stanley from. But
right.
If anybody know Cassius Stanley, you know he can get up there, he can dunk. So
right. It's just crazy to have. Yeah, it is unfortunate. It's just crazy to have a panel of dunkers, and then you see Cassius Stanley do that dunk. He goes between. He takes the ball between the leg that he jumped. That's hard. Exactly. That's tough.
Like, I'm not even a dunker. I can recognize how tough that is.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't see him do it at first, but when they, you know how they show it in slow motion afterwards, I was like, oh my God, he went between the leg. He just jumped off of. That's crazy.
and the judges had the access to the replay before they even. So I don't understand how they didn't catch it. And you know what? It is what it is. Anthony Simons won. He did the Tracy McGrady dunk from 2000, where he took, where he did the 360 touch his ankles.
Yeah.
I don't know if Simons touched his ankles like T-Mac did, but it was a cool visual.
Yeah, it was dope.
I think the right guy won.
Yeah, I agree. The right guy won. The only thing I hate is that
Cassius Stanley didn't really have a chance, first of all. But
once he got that 44, I felt like it kind of took him out of it mentally, and that's kind of what hurt him going forward in the dunk contest. But then you see players like Ja Morant quote tweeting somebody complaining about the dunk contest, and Ja Morant responded with, "That's why I'll never do one," and it was pretty much because of like the way that the judges were scoring.
You think they had direct response to what happened with Cassius Stanley, or no?
Most likely, yeah, because that was the one that everybody was complaining about. Like, how was that dunk of 44? Like, you crazy.
And then it was the first dunk of the night. No mess ups. He just went out there. First dunk of the night. Boom.
No, he set the tone.
44. And he got a 44 off of it.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. So I hope that they try and fix that next year, because I'm sure there's a lot of fans who would love to see Ja Morant in a dunk contest. But it's sad that now, because of how bad the judges scoring has been the last couple of years, we really might not see him in one.
I got a friend that was telling me how he saw something that said, if you take the guys from the 3-point contest and just put them in a dunk contest, it would have been so much better of a dunk contest, because you could think about the fact that the 3-point contest had Donovan Mitchell and Zach LaVine and Jaylen Brown and all those dunkers in it.
Yeah,
but then they was in the 3-point contest. It was just a funny little thing. Like,
you know what? That's actually not a bad point. I think that's another thing that may have hurt this year was it was all rookies. Well, actually, Anthony Simons is not really a rookie, but you had younger players in it who some people never heard of before.
Right.
So that may have also hurt it. But
then there were just 3 people.
Yeah, that too. It fell short, and it was only 3 people yet. So hopefully next year we're not dealing with a pandemic and things can be normal. We can have a normal All-Star weekend and have more NBA stars in it. And hopefully it'll just be better. I mean, they did the best they could with the time that they had, because they could only make it a day. They didn't want players to be in Atlanta for that long. So they did the best they could. So for what we were able to get with everything that's going on, it was still a decent All-Star weekend / day.
I agree with that. We can move
on. But today officially marks the second half of the NBA season. As you know, the NBA season was cut into 2 halves this year because of COVID reasons. They wanted to cut it into 2 halves to give themselves a little bit of wiggle room just in case there were any issues in the first half with like games being canceled, which did happen. And I think there's like 15 to 20 games that they're supposed to make up this half of the season. Don't know how that'll go. That'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if there's some teams who don't want to do it, or if there's teams that have to play 3-4 straight games in order to make up for the games that they missed in the first half.
Why? Who says these games have to be made up though? Why do we have to make these games up?
I guess to make
it's already a wacky season to begin with. So why not just leave it alone and just go with the second half of the season and just finish the season?
I guess to try and keep everybody's record the same. Because if you look at teams like the Lakers haven't had any COVID issues as bad as some other teams, like, I don't know, the Nets having to deal with KD coming out in the middle of a game, or didn't Detroit have issues at one point? Regardless, there's some teams that have had more issues than others, so they'll end up playing less games than other teams. I think Memphis is the team that missed the most games because of COVID. Probably, but see, that's what I mean. So if you were to just go ahead and finish out the season, then Memphis would play less games than the Lakers or like the Clippers, or So I guess they're trying to make it as even as possible. They're trying to make sure everybody can play 72 games.
I say they should evaluate whether this team's going to be in playoff contention or not.
Okay.
And then go from there, because if you're not going to be in playoff contention, there's no real reason for you to make these games up.
That is true, but what if these games help them to get into playoff contention?
I mean, okay, I guess you're right.
Because there are going to be some teams that are going to argue that, because they're going to say, well, we missed 10 games. We weren't able to make them up. we were, I don't know, 6 games back from being the 10th seed or being the 9th seed, and we could have had a chance to.
You're right. Yeah. You're right, because I forget about the play-in tournament.
Exactly.
And I'm thinking about top 8 instead of top 10.
Yeah, because you got the play-in tournament now, which we'll get to that. So the second half of the NBA season officially begins today, March 10th. You got 3 games today. You got the Wizards and Grizzlies, Spurs and Mavericks, Pistons and Hornets. Then they announced that the playoffs will start May 22nd and July 22nd. Weird the playoffs are starting in May. Even weirder that the finals would be in July. But then again, last season we had the finals in the fall, so still a weird year.
Supposed to be starting.
Exactly. Still a weird year. And 2 days after the ending of the regular season, they will have the play-in tournament, which will go from May 18th to May 21st. And the way that'll be set up is the 7th and 8th seeds will fight for a spot in the playoffs by having 2 opportunities to win 1 game to earn a spot. And then the 9th and 10th seeds will have to win 2 straight games in order to earn a playoff spot. And that's going to be tough. Yeah. Winning 2 straight games, first of all, it'll really feel like 2 straight playoff games in a play-in tournament because everybody's fighting for the same opportunity. So for those teams who win 2 straight in the play-in tournament, might be dangerous teams to look for come playoff time.
Yeah, you think about how everybody treated Portland last year after they play-in tournament.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean.
How dangerous Portland was supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they ran into the Lakers. Maybe if they play somebody else.
I mean, but they also was picking Portland to beat them. You know what?
That is very true. Yeah, I agree. No. I agree with that. I agree. But, I mean, the Lakers were on a mission last year for sure. When you run into the team that ultimately wins it, I give teams a little bit of slack because it's like, listen, they were destined to win it anyway. Like, think about it. What if Portland, for that first round, plays the Clippers?
Oh, maybe they, I don't know. The Clippers didn't seem very focused on beating anybody but the Lakers. So.
That's what I mean. So, like, it could have been a different story if Portland played somebody not named the Lakers last year. But regardless, I feel like whoever has to win 2 straight this year to make it into the playoffs will be a team to look out for. They will be a dangerous team. They'll probably be the team with the hottest hand really going into the start of the playoffs. Because they kind of started the playoffs early having to win 2 play-in spots. So.
But they got to be close enough to even be in contention for the play-in tournament anyway. There's not going to be a play-in tournament regardless. Don't you have to be close in record for there to be a play-in tournament?
I think you're right.
Because didn't the East not have a play-in tournament last year because they were?
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you had to be close enough anyway. And to be honest, the way the West is playing out right now, it looks like that's how it's going to happen.
Yeah, the West is going to have a play-in tournament. The East, on the other hand, I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know how close their records are. They might, because I don't think it has anything to do with record. I think it has something to do with how close you are to the people in front of you.
Right. Well, actually, technically, if that's the case, then that might be the East because we'll get to these standings. But the East actually is very close from that 10th seed to that 5th seed. It's weird.
Okay.
Speaking of which, let's get into the standings. So, of course, we did our predictions for the first half of the year a couple podcasts ago. We had the teams that we believed would be seated in those 1 through 8 spots. And now looking at the current standings.
Do you have your list from back then? Because I don't think I have mine.
Yes.
I think I just go off.
Yeah, I got my list. I have my list. Yeah, I'll give you my list.
We'll just go off yours. Okay. We'll just go off yours.
So let's give the current standings. So in the East, the first seed is the 76ers.
Right. And you picked them to be the first seed one, right?
I picked them to be a top 2 seed. I don't think I necessarily picked them to be the 1 seed. I had to go back and look. I might have, but I know that they were a top. I felt like they were going to be a top seed this year in the East. So the 76ers are the 1 seed. The Nets are the 2 seed, of course. Bucks are the 3 seed. Celtics are the 4 seed. Knicks are the 5. Heat are the 6. Hornets are the 7. The Raptors are the 8 seed out East right now. Weird thing about the East. The Celtics are the 4 seed, but they're 19 and 17. 2 games above 500, and they're the 4th seed. In the West, if you were 2 games above 500, you were the Mavericks and you were the 8th seed.
Yeah, why is that always the case? Why when there's a team under 500 or close to 500 making the playoffs, it's always the East, it's never the West?
That's a good question. I have no clue. I'm glad you asked that, because that's my question too. That's my question too.
If you're 37 and 45 in any given year in the Eastern Conference, it feels like you can probably sneak into that 8th seed. I saw the Charlotte Bobcats or whatever do that plenty of times over the years.
Yeah, back in those Emeka Okafor days.
In the West, you got to win 48 games to even have a chance to be in the playoff.
Yeah,
and it's been like that constantly for the last few years.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know why it's like that. Especially with some stars going to the East. Now it's not like they're all on different teams.
Exactly.
But
exactly, you got James Harden in the East now, Kevin Durant in the East now.
Yeah, but
Giannis still in the East. There's stars in the East too.
That's true. But see, it's not really evened out. Like, it'd be different if KD and James Harden were on different teams. Like if Kyrie had his own team, Kevin Durant had his own team, and James Harden had his own team, it'd probably be a little more even. But since those three are on the same team, yeah, like you said, it's a little top heavy.
You're right. That's why everybody was like LeBron has an easy road when he was in the East, because the East was just so mediocre and bad most of the years.
Yeah. That's true, but see, the East has kind of always been like that. It's not like the East records were amazing back in the 90s.
Yeah, even when Michael Jordan was like, there were still teams making the playoffs with 29 wins.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Winning 29 to 32 games and making the playoffs is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's unheard of in the West. In the West, you got teams, you got to win 50 games to get, like 2010. Yeah. The Thunder was the A seed at 50 wins. And the first seed was the Lakers at 57. Like, there were 7 games separating the first and the 8th seed in 2000.
That's crazy. 50 wins and you're the 8th seed? Oof.
And you're the 8th seed.
That's crazy, bro. 50 wins and you're 8th seed. Yeah, that's tough. It's a tough conference.
Exactly. And it's been like that. That was 10, 11 years ago. And it's still kind of like that if you think about it.
Yeah, that's true. Man, 50 wins and you're 8th seed.
I don't think 50 wins have been the 8th seed ever again since then, but they've been close. 48, 47, stuff like that.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah, that's a tough conference. The West always been tough historically. So of course we just named who we have, not who we have, but who are in the current standings out east. So I'll go over my predictions. So my predictions for the first half was I had the Bucks being the 1 seed. And they're currently the 3rd seed.
I also had the Bucks being the 1 seed. I remember that because I didn't think nobody was going to be able to, compete with them in the regular season because like they like to blitz in the regular season. So apparently they've learned their lesson or something, or they're just not as good. But continue.
I mainly had them being the 1 seed because I felt like after last year, like that's what it seemed like they cared about the most. But I mean, come playoff time, you saw what happened. I think, like you said, maybe they have possibly learned the lesson and realizing that the 1 seed is not the most important seed to have. It really don't matter what seed you are if you're a tough competitive team anyway.
They had no choice but to learn. Like, they haven't won yet. They've been doing it for the last 3-4 years and haven't won nothing. So you gotta learn something from it.
That is true. So I had the Bucks being the 1 seed. They're currently the 3rd. I knew that they wouldn't be anything less than the top 3 seed, especially in the East. They are still led by 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, so I know that they'll continue to stay at top 3 seed. So, and then I predicted the 76ers to be the 2 seed, and they're actually the 1 seed right now. And they got the 3rd best overall record in the NBA, which is good. I'm glad I didn't sleep on the Sixers. Didn't expect them to necessarily be the 1 seed, but the fact that they are just shows how much having a new GM and having a new head coach can change the culture of a franchise.
Yeah, I always knew that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid had the potential to work with the right pieces around them, and I think they got the right pieces around them now. They should have kept JJ Redick because he would have added to that.
Right.
But you add Steph Curry and whatever Danny Green's doing, because you never know with him if he's gonna make shots or not. But if you put shooting around Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and the fact that that Joel Embiid is playing at MVP type level now, you add that to the right pieces around them, and you have a 1 seed Sixers. So kudos to them.
That's true, very true. Then I predicted the Nets to be the 3 seed, and they're currently the 2 seed. Now this prediction was before James Harden joined.
Right, they're probably gonna take over.
This prediction was just when they had just KD and Kyrie. It's before James Harden joined them, and then of course Blake Griffin rejoined them recently. It's before that. Them being at the 2 seed makes sense. I mean, they're one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. Even though they've had Kevin Durant out, their role players are playing phenomenally for them. Kyrie and James Harden don't have to worry about dropping 35 every game for them to win because their role players are doing so well for them right now. So they're playing really well.
And I like the way James Harden is playing now. He's changed his game.
Yep.
Like you said, he was going to.
Yeah, I said if there was anybody who was going to have to concede, it's got to be him, only because he came in the league that way.
But I don't think it's conceding when he's playing the best basketball of his career, in my opinion.
Well, true. Well, conceding points wise, like he didn't have to. Because I mean, if he was still in Houston right now, he'd probably be averaging like 36, 37.
Yeah, playing the same way. That's not gonna
exactly. Win. But now he can have a cool 21, 25 points and have like 11 assists and like 8 boards.
He's the best playmaker. He's that point guard. He's the best playmaker.
Yeah, see, that was another thing I said. I was like, listen, Kyrie's not really a playmaker for everybody. Like, when it was just Kyrie and KD was actually showing his playmaking skills sometimes because Kyrie doesn't do it all the time. So when they got James Harden, I was like, he's a playmaker. Now, I get that he did a lot of scoring in Houston, but I was like, he can play make when he really wants to. So I was like, hopefully he'll bring that with him to Brooklyn. And he has. He doesn't care that he doesn't drop 30. As long as he's got like 20 points, he's got 10 plus assists, and he's got like 8 boards, he's good. And it also helps put the Nets in a great position to win because he's helping to get those role players involved way more than just Kyrie and KD were. So he's helping those guys like Joe Harris to eat, and it's good. It's helping them. It's helping them a lot. So then at the 4th seed, I predicted the Celtics, and they are currently the 4th seed. I just didn't predict them being almost 500 at the 4th seed. I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah, you predicted them in the standings, just not to be as underwhelming as they are. As they have.
Yeah, I expect them to be a little better, not gonna lie. Listen, they're the 4th seed, so it's not like you can take that away. But again,
like we said, 19 and 17 can keep you afloat in the Eastern Conference. Right. So I guess they're in a position where they feel like they're going to get better. I feel like they're going to get better in the second half of the season. This is when teams start to ramp it up.
Right.
We'll see the Celtics and Marcus Smart's coming back. He's going to be back in the lineup Thursday.
He's going to help them out a lot, especially on that defensive end, like he always does. But it's just really weird to see the 2 games above 500 and they're 4 in the East. But again, they would be 8 in the West right now. 2 games above 500 like the Mavericks. That's just crazy. So at 5 at the 5th seed, I predicted the Heat, but it is currently the Knicks out east, which is crazy. Ooh. And the Heat are actually the 6th seed.
Who expected that?
Yeah, I don't know who expected that. Unless you're a Knicks fan, I didn't expect that. But that's good for the Knicks, though. I know their fans love it.
Did Knicks fan even expect that?
There are probably some that did.
They say it every year, though. They say it when they're going to be 50.
Oh yeah, of course. But it's good to see. It's good to see. I know that their fans are excited that the Knicks will finally be in the playoffs again because I don't see them dropping out of playoff contention at this point. Especially since you don't have to have a great record in the East to be in the playoffs right now anyway. Because they're 1 game above 500 and they're the 5th seed.
That's the only reason I'll agree with you. Because it looks like the rest of the Eastern Conference are mediocre as well.
So I think
it doesn't. You don't have to win as many games this year. Well, any year to make the playoffs in the East. And the Knicks are doing just enough. I feel like they can just continue to do that and expand on that. And
yeah, and they'll end up being fine. So the Knicks are making the playoffs. It's crazy they did it.
I don't think they're gonna be fifth seed though.
Okay, what do you think they'll?
You think they'll stay you think they'll stay in the fifth seed? I think they'll end up in a playoff. I think they'll end up in a play-in spot, like the 9th seed or I don't think the Knicks are gonna stay in the fifth seed. But I think the Heat's gonna come up. I think the Pacers are gonna come up, and I think the Heat, Pacers, and who am I missing? The Raptors. I think those three teams are gonna come up.
I can respect that. We'll give those predictions at the end, but I respect that. Okay. So then my 6th seed, I predicted the Raptors, and it's currently the Heat at the 6th seed, and the Raptors are actually currently the 8th seed. Raptors have been a little underwhelming this year, but they're getting better this back half of the year. Especially the end of that first half, they got a lot better. So I think going into the second half of the season, since they've been in playoff contention multiple times, got players on their team who have gone deep in the playoffs, I think they'll be just fine. I think they'll have a chance to play and have a chance to do really well come playoff time. They are also playing in a weird place, so they're not getting to play at home. They're not getting to play at home. Even if they were playing at home, there probably wouldn't be a crowd. Like, there's not really a crowd for anybody right now. So I think just given the circumstances, things have been kind of weird for them.
What is COVID looking like in Canada?
They're a lot better off than the U.S.
I bet they are, but still. Like,
I think that they're on way tighter restrictions than we are, though.
Okay, got you. That's why they won't let.
Pretty much, yeah. Their restrictions are a lot tighter than ours, but maybe come playoff time, since the playoffs starting in May this year, maybe things will look different, and they can go back and play in Canada and maybe have a few fans there. Maybe. Not 100% sure, but I can definitely tell it's kind of affected their team this year. But I think that they're kind of getting used to it now, and I think they'll be a little higher. I mean, they're at the 8th spot. It's not bad, but I definitely see them getting higher as the season goes on. So, okay, for the 7th spot, I predicted the Pacers to be the 7th seed, but it is currently the Charlotte Hornets are the 7th seed right now.
Yeah, they've been fine. I really like LaMelo is everything LeVar promised us Lonzo would be.
Oh, that's a good point.
And Lonzo himself ain't playing bad, but LaMelo is just so dynamic. I think the difference between them is Melo's an alpha and Lonzo isn't.
Okay.
Melo in his mind is a first option. He's a first option type player, and he plays like it. Lonzo plays like a second, third option that likes to facilitate, play defense. Like, he plays like a role player, basically. Melo plays like he's going to be a star. And then Gordon Hayward's playing very
Terry
well.
Rozier.
I'm surprised by that. Terry Rozier playing very well. Devontae Graham shoot the hell out of the ball. Yeah, I like that Charlotte team. That Charlotte team's fun. They're fun like I thought the Hawks would be.
Ooh, okay, that's a good point. I like that point too. They're fun like you thought the Hawks would be. Same here. Speaking of the Hawks, I predicted the Hawks to be the 8th seed in the West by the end of this first half, and that is currently the Raptors. So I was wrong about the Hawks. I think the Hawks are like the 11th seed right now in the East, which is sad to say because the Hornets and the Raptors are both 1 and 2 games below 500, yet they're 7th and 8th in the East. So clearly in the East, you don't even have to be 500. You can be below 500 right now and be in playoff contention, and the Hawks aren't even in that 9th or 10th spot. It's kind of bad. Maybe that's something that'll change, but to be honest, I don't really see it changing. They're not a team that I see making a huge push this half of the season.
You don't think they get one of the play-ins? You don't think they get one of the play-ins?
No. I don't see that from them right now. I could be wrong though, but I don't see that from them. But there is a team that I do see playing for one of those spots by the end of the season, but we'll get into who that is later. Okay, so that was my predictions out East. I was pretty right about the top 4.
I think I might know who you're talking about.
Yeah, we'll get into it. I was decent with the top 4. Top 3 wasn't super accurate, but it it was the same three teams. I had the same three teams: the Bucks, the Nets, and the Sixers, just in a different order. But I think like you said, the East is pretty top heavy. But I don't think that top three will change. I think that top three will remain the Bucks, Nets, 76ers. Who will be number one? I don't really know. But actually, the top four, because I don't think the Celtics are moving any higher. And I don't think they're moving any lower than that fourth spot.
But you don't think they're going to drop? Yeah.
I think the Celtics will stay stagnant at that fourth spot. And then out west, for the predictions that I had the Clippers being the 1 seed out west by the end of the first half. And it's currently the Utah Jazz are the 1 seed in the West. The best overall record in the NBA, 27-9. And in my opinion, they've played the best basketball out of any team so far. The Nets are red hot right now, and I understand that. But for the entirety of the season, I think the Jazz have played the best out of anybody else.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, and I think their team chemistry right now is just really good. They're pretty fun to watch too. Like I love the way they play. They play team basketball for sure. So they deserve that one spot, and they deserve that to have that number one overall record. Do I think that can change going into the second half of the season? Yes, I do think teams, after seeing how they played in the first half, will play them a lot tougher the second half of the season.
They won't surprise nobody no more.
You think so?
I said they won't surprise anybody anymore.
Oh yeah, of course. So we'll see. How about this? They can maintain that 1 seed if they really want to. If they really work hard enough for it, I do think they can maintain that 1 seed. But it will be a lot tougher this back half than it was in the first half of the season. Okay, so for my second seed, I predicted second seed to be the Lakers, but that is currently the Phoenix Suns. They're the second seed.
That's also very interesting. Chris Paul just makes everything he touches better, I guess.
It seems like it.
Because he did that everywhere he went. He did that everywhere he went.
Yep.
He did that in Oklahoma City. He did that in Houston.
Yep.
You can argue that they might even have a championship or at least to the finals in Houston if he didn't get hurt that one game. That one game they missed 27 threes in a row in Game 7.
That's so crazy. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. So first of all, shout out to Chris Paul for showing the Houston Rockets, because again, every time I think about Houston sending him to OKC and sending him to OKC with all those young players, I really felt like they sent him there to retire. I say that every time.
I remember you saying that.
Like, and for him to not only make that team better, but then to make them a playoff contender out west, and then do good come playoff time. I mean, they went to Game 7 with Houston.
Like from not playoff contention at all to playoff contention to the second seed.
Exactly. And then if you look at the Thunder now without him, they're not in playoff contention.
But they also don't have like Dennis Schroeder and all those. The Thunder's lost a lot. It wasn't just Chris Paul.
That is true. They lost a lot for all those picks. Yeah, but still, I'm just saying the way he was able to turn them around for the 1 year he was there, to me, is amazing. It shows his leadership.
Shout out to Chris Paul, man.
He's one of those players that shows you that scoring isn't everything. Like, yeah, it's good to be able to drop 30, but if it's not leading to wins, then what does it matter? You still got to be a leader in that locker room. That's what he is. So then OKC, now he's showing that with the Suns, and now they're the 2 seed in the West, and they have the second overall best record in the NBA. So shout out to Chris Paul, like you said. So for the 3 seed, I predicted the Nuggets to be the 3 seed, but that's actually the Lakers right now. Yeah. And the Nuggets are actually currently the 6 seed. That's a good question. You think they miss Jeremy Grant?
I do. Jokic is, but that's different. I mean, not different. That's weird though, because Jeremy Grant wasn't what he is in Detroit, and Denver. He was just like a glue guy in Denver, just doing the dirty working type stuff.
Right.
But like I was gonna say, Jokic is playing at an MVP level, but the team just isn't as good as they could be with him playing at that MVP level. I think that they're missing Jeremy Grant and also Torrey Craig. The
Torrey Craig, yeah.
Yeah, on defense at least. The wing defense and offense, like 3-and-D wings, are some of the most valuable players in the NBA, and they missing, and they just let go of two of the best in the NBA that we have. So I guess you do suffer if you are missing guys like that.
Yeah, that's true.
But you also gave Michael Porter Jr. a bigger role. So who knows? Are we talking about the Nets right now? Or are we talking about the Lakers? Because they're the real 3 seed. Which one you want to? Which one we might as well talk about the Nets since we're already talking about the Nets.
The Lakers are currently the 3 seed, but I just predicted the Nuggets, and then we kind of got into the Nuggets. But you bring up some good points about the Nuggets, though.
Yeah, and Jamal Murray is also not playing out of his mind like he was in the bubble too. So there's a lot of factors that have the Nuggets where they are right now. Right. And I think they have the opportunity to climb because I think they're good. I think they have one of the best players in the league. And I think they have one of the best complementary players to him in the league. Mm-hmm. And then one of the best young players in the league. And then they got Will Barton back, and they still have what's his name? Gary Harris.
Yeah, Gary Harris. Yeah.
I don't know what the status of their. I don't know what their status is. Is anybody injured on that team? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the injuries are looking on that squad.
But yeah, I still like the Nuggets. I just think they're starting real slow. I think they'll ramp it up in the second half, and I think they'll get themselves back to where they want to be. Eventually.
Yeah. I think it just looks disappointing because they're not playing the way they were playing in the bubble. But then you can also say the same thing about the Lakers being the 3 seed, being 24-13, which isn't bad by any means. But I think a lot of people just predicted the Lakers to look like how they looked, the way they looked in the playoffs last year.
Well, I think part of that is injury. And another part of that is they don't sweat. They don't sweat nobody. They really don't. They're not taking the regular season as serious as they was last year. Because I feel like last year, before you actually won a championship and know how that feels and what that means for these players, I think that they were ramping it up in the regular season more than they probably are now that they've won and know what it takes to win. So I just think they don't fear nobody. They know they can beat everybody. Maybe besides the Nets. I feel like the Nets are their only competition. I really do.
Okay. I can see that.
And I think they know that. And I think that they play like that. Because if you think about it, they haven't been as fun to watch this season than they were last season.
Yeah, true. You can tell that they're kind of coasting this season through a lot of games.
They're coasting. Except for LeBron. LeBron's been looking like himself most of these games.
Yeah.
But when Anthony Davis was healthy, he was coasting. And that was causing the rest of the team to coast, especially on defense. So
true.
They'll ramp it up in the second half. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I agree. Also, if you watch LeBron's career as somebody who's actually trying to watch him, you may not be a fan of him, but if you just like basketball, you would know that historically with his teams, he always tries to get his team ready for the back half of the season in terms of getting them to level up right before playoff time or going into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Which is something that the Lakers were doing last year before COVID hit and before they got to the bubble.
Right.
So that's something they're gonna do this year also. I mean, they coasted through the season and they're 24-13 and they're third in the West. Like, that's not bad. Right. Especially when the team that's right below them, the Clippers, haven't really been coasting. They've been trying every game, and they're the 4th seed at 24-14. Mm-hmm. So I think the Lakers will be fine, especially once Anthony Davis comes back healthy. I think they'll be good.
Those two teams, I don't think seeding matters at all.
Yeah, no, of course not.
Like, at all. Like, not even a little bit. Especially in a year like this where there won't be no fans anyway. You just traveling to travel.
Right.
That seeding don't matter to those teams at all.
That's a good point.
Depending on what seed they fall under in the end of the season, they're still going to be the Western Conference Finals probably.
Okay. That's a good point.
It just depends on whether or not they meet in the second round because of where they're seeded.
Very true. Yeah. I definitely had to agree that the Lakers and Clippers are definitely teams that seeding, like you said, does not matter to them. It doesn't matter. They could be 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th seeds. It doesn't matter. They'll be just fine come playoff time, and they'll be the most dangerous teams in the playoffs in the West. So I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the 4th spot out West, I predicted the Mavs to be the 4th seed, but that is currently the Clippers, like I said, 24-14, which is weird because I actually thought highly of the Clippers going into the season and thought that they would be the 1 seed, and they were only the 1 seed for like 24 hours. But they're still, but like you said before, there's nothing to worry about when it comes to the Clippers because they're, like you said, they're a team that doesn't need to be a top seed or a top 2 seed in order for them to do damage in the playoffs. Like you said, they're most likely a team that'll be a Western Conference Finals contender. So I agree. I don't see them dropping any lower than the 4th seed, though. I really only see them either staying at the 4th seed or going up. Definitely don't see them getting any worse during the season, so they'll be fine. For the 5th seed, I predicted it to be the Jazz, but lo and behold, they're the 1 seed. Didn't see that coming at all. The actual 5th seed currently is the Blazers. The Blazers have kind of been what they've always been. I can't really.
What did you predict the Blazers?
I predicted the Blazers to be the 6th seed, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't too far off. I mean, they're doing pretty good. They're still a team that's going to be dangerous in the playoffs every year, though, especially when they're led by Damian Lillard. So them being a 5th seed, not really surprising. Kind of seems about right, to be honest. I really don't see them getting any worse either. To me, the highest they could get is like a 4th seed. Really. I don't see them being like a top 3 seed, but they're still always going to be the Blazers, but they're still always going to be a dangerous playoff team, though.
I don't even think they'll get 4th.
Yeah, I mean, they got a chance. Like, I'll give it to them. They got a chance, but will it happen? Most likely not. So, team that I predicted to be the 6th seed this far was, like I said, the Trailblazers. But that's actually currently the Nuggets. They're currently the 6th seed in the
right. We talked about
which is a little underwhelming, but it is what it is. And then for the 8th seed, I predicted the Suns to be the 8th seed in the West, but that's actually currently the Mavericks. So I thought very highly of the Mavericks because I predicted them to be the 4th seed, but they're actually the 8th seed. Definitely had some struggles this year, but towards the end of the first half of the season, they actually started playing really well so that they can be in that 8th seed. And they're a toss-up. They could get better, but they could also get worse. I don't know what'll happen with the Mavericks yet.
I mean, do they have Porzingis
yes.
back? Oh, so he's been back. I haven't been tuning in. You know what the Mavericks kind of remind me of with Luka? It's Anthony Davis with New Orleans. Because you know how it was always, his teams were always underwhelming, but he always put up MVP type numbers.
Right.
That's the kind of thing I see with the Mavericks and Luka. I think Luka's going to be, like Anthony Davis got out and he was able to go and contribute and win a championship. And now he's considered like one of the top 5 players in the league. And I think that Luka is, to be fair to him, he's also considered one of the top 5 players in the league. He's considered a higher regard in his position right now than Anthony Davis was when he was in New Orleans. Like, you think that's a fair statement?
I think that's fair, especially since this is his 3rd season. And going into his 3rd season, a lot of people predicted him to be MVP for this year. So I definitely agree that people give him a little more respect at this point in his career than they were giving Anthony Davis for sure.
Okay, yeah. So that's just kind of what this reminds me of. Like, he's gonna have to either get the Mavericks over that hump or go somewhere and get over that hump and win a championship to be of that regard. I mean, he's already there. Don't get me wrong, he's already there, but kind of like Giannis. Giannis, to me, he's like he's an MVP, but like he's not one of those top all-time players yet until he wins the championship.
Right. I can see that.
And the same thing with Luka. Luka's going to have to win some championships and have his team in better position for me to like continue to be, endorsed. I mean, I like Luka. I like watching him play. He's a great player, but like you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
He's going to have to like get his team. He's going to have to like get his team out of that 7-8 range and up into real contention.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, listen, he is young still. He still got plenty of time to do that. I just, like you said, he's held at a higher regard than a lot of other players were in like their third season. That's really the only difference. But he can get his team there. It'll take some time. I mean, he still got plenty of time. He's young, so he'll be there. But I guess it is good though that they're now a playoff team, that they're now in that 8th spot. I think it'd be kind of bad if they were sitting anything lower. I'd be a little worried about them. But again, they made a good little push towards the end of the first half so that they can get in that 8th spot. So that says a lot. That's good. And they got Porzingis back now. So I don't really know what they'll do next, but they could get better, but they could also get worse too. It just they're hit or miss. It just all depends. But so my predictions for the West were decent. Definitely were off because wasn't seeing the Jazz or the Suns being top 3 in the West at this point in the season at all. But then again, who really did? Unless you were a Jazz or a Suns fan.
Nobody. So we're off the hook there.
So that was different, and also I kind of had high hopes for the Mavericks and the Nuggets going into this point of the season.
Yes. Yeah, same. Especially the Nuggets, the way they were finished last season. I thought they were coming up. I thought the Nuggets were like coming.
Yeah, I mean they were the comeback kids of the bubble.
Like they were next, right? Like they were next up to like be in championship level form. Like if they build on what they had in the bubble last year.
Yeah.
But then again, they also lost a lot of games in the bubble. They went to Game 7 3 times.
That is very true.
I mean, twice. How many times did they go to Game 7? Twice?
First round, second round.
They went. Yeah, they went twice. They lost a lot of games in the bubble too. So
yeah,
it just felt like they were in position to build on what they had, and it's just disappointing that they haven't done that to this point.
Yeah, but see, it could be like that they may be saving it. Because, they didn't go to the finals, but they still went deep enough to where they still had a short off season. And then they had to go to two straight series where they went to Game 7s. Had to fight really hard. And even though the Lakers beat them in 5, the Lakers still had to earn it. It wasn't like the Lakers didn't have to fight for those to win in 5. So that could be a factor also. Having a shorter off season could be affecting them. But they're definitely a team that I say could get better this second half of the season if they really want to. But regardless, after what they were able to show last year in the playoffs, it doesn't fully matter where they're seated either. As long as they're not in that 7 or 8 spot, they're still going to be very dangerous. So,
yeah, only thing that matters with seeding this year is who would you not or who would you want to be matched up against in the first few rounds of the playoffs.
True.
That's it. But I don't think teams really try to avoid other teams in that though. So seeding really doesn't matter.
That is true. I do think there are some teams who try to avoid others, but there are certain teams that really don't care. I think the teams with the most experience in the playoffs don't really care because they've been there, done that. They've seen it all before, so they don't really fear anybody. But I think teams who have the least amount of experience care the most though. Because they don't want to run into the most experienced team in the very first round. You know? Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens with that. But I do want to go ahead and get into these predictions for the second half of the season.
Well, I think that the top 4 in the West are going to stay the top 4. Maybe the order is going to change. But I think the top 4 is going to pretty much be the top 4 at this point. And the top 4 in the East, pretty much the same thing. Not Nuggets. Nets,
Sixers,
Bucks, Sixers, Celtics. Yeah, that's going to stay the same. That's
I agree with that.
Too. Right. And I feel like, let's see, the play-in tournament.
Yep.
I think that the 4 teams in the West for the play-in tournament are going to be the Grizzlies, the Warriors, the Trailblazers, and the Pelicans.
Ooh, okay.
Those are the 4 teams I see in the Western Conference for the play-in tournament. Whatever order you want to put them in. If you want to match up Steph and Dame, you can do that. That'd be fun.
Okay.
You want to match up. I forgot about the Mavericks. I think the Mavericks are going to be one of those teams. Take out the Pelicans and put the Mavericks. You want to match up Luka and Steph. That's going to be something. Luka and Dame, that's going to be something as well. The play-in tournament is going to be some of the most fun basketball that we have this season.
That we've seen so far this season, yeah, I think I agree with that. It's going to be tough. And again, like I said, like whatever team has to win the back-to-back games to make it in, it to me will be the most dangerous team to look out for.
Yeah, and you got to think about the fact that they're winning those back-to-back games also against somebody that's playing for the playoff.
Right, exactly. You know what? I just realized I think I may have skipped. Did I skip the 7th seed? Did I say that the Spurs were currently 7th in the West?
I think you.
I think I skipped it also. So the Spurs are 7th seed in the West. I completely I don't know how I skipped over them, but yes, they are also in playoff contention, which is good. But I also had them in my predictions for the end of the year, so that's the reason why I brought that up, because I just realized I think I skipped over the fact that they were the 7th seed in the West right now. I think I kind of agree with that though for the East. I think that top 4 stay the same. I think because, well, first of all, really, from the 4th to the 8th seed is really all kind of close. I mean, again, the Celtics are only a couple games above 500. Same with the Heat. And then the 7th and 8th seeds right now are currently a game below 500. So things could change, but I just don't see them changing in the East, especially with that top 4, like you said. So I don't know what'll happen, but this is who I have for the East. I think the 76ers will find a way to keep the 1 seed.
Over the
Yes. Could I be very wrong? Yes, especially if there's an injury or two on the 76ers. It'll definitely be wrong, and the Nets will definitely be number 1. Because again, they've proven that they can play without their best player. So I'm saying that now, but if the 76ers again have any injuries, it doesn't even have to be just to Joel Embiid. If they have any injuries to any of those 5 starters, I don't know if they'll be the 1 seed. So I'm giving them the 1 seed, assuming that they're completely healthy. So I'll give it to the 76ers for the 1 seed that's fully healthy.
Even over a healthy Nets, that's wild. Because I think the Nets are going to take that 1 seed by.
They might. Only reason why I give the 76ers the edge is just because people come at the Nets with a different level of play. As you saw earlier in the season with teams like the Cavs, teams play them a lot different. Like for some teams, they know that they're not making the playoffs, that they won't get to play in any of these big games. So like their big game is when they play a team like the Nets during the regular season, you know? So they play way harder. Yeah. Sometimes a team like the Nets may not play the Cavs as hard as they'll go play the Lakers. Whereas right now with the season, it seems like the 76ers is giving everybody that same energy. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if it's the Lakers, the Nets, if it's the Cavs. Like, they keep that same energy with everybody right now. So that's the reason why I am keeping the 76ers at the 1 seed and putting the Nets at the 2 seed. I think the Bucks will be the 3 seed. Don't see them surpassing the Nets or the Sixers, really. But the 3 seed is safe seed for them. Hopefully they'll turn it up come playoff time, though, because they need it. Celtics, the 4 seed. Just don't see them surpassing those top 3 teams, but then I don't see them dropping either. So I think they might just stay stuck in that 4th spot. 5th seed, I think the Heat will be the 5th seed. I think the Knicks will be the 6th seed. I don't feel like the Knicks will get worse. Don't see them dropping. I don't see them dropping out of the playoffs at all. But things could happen, but hopefully it won't for them.
In that conference, you don't got to be worse, and you can still drop, though. You could be exactly the same and still drop.
That is true.
Because everybody's on the, like, if everybody's on the same, around the same level, you can lose a couple games, and let's say this team win a couple games, they're ahead of you now.
That is true, but I think the Knicks will find a way to try to stay out of that play-in tournament. How about that? So I think they'll be sitting right outside of it as like a 6th seed. 7th seed, I got the Raptors. The Raptors could overtake the Knicks and be a 6th seed in the East. But It's a toss-up with them. I don't think they'll stay at the 8th seed though. Don't think they'll stay at the 8th seed. Hard to say that they'll be a 6th seed or higher. So I think like the 7th seed is perfect for the Raptors for how they've been playing so far this season. Then for my 8th seed, I've got the Hornets. I think the Hornets will still kind of play it, but again, the way that the East has been set up, like you don't have to have an amazing record. You don't have to be at 500 or higher to be an 8th seed. You can be below 500 right now and be a 7th and 8th seed. So I think that's what will happen to the Hornets. I think they'll be below 500, but they'll still be in that 8th spot come the end of the season. So that'll be interesting. And then I do have a 9th and 10th seed for the play-in tournament. So I'm making a bold prediction here for this 9th seed. No, there are probably a lot of people. Go ahead.
Hold on. You said okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a bold prediction when it comes to this ninth seeded team because there are gonna be a lot of people who are gonna disagree. But I think the team that'll make a push this back half of the season and will be in that play-in tournament in the East, I think it'll be the Wizards.
I knew you were gonna say it. I knew exactly. Remember earlier when I was like, I think I know who you're talking about. I think it's gonna be the Wizards. I just think them being fully healthy and them finally figuring it out. Back half of the back end of that first half of the season, them finally figuring things out between Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, and their role players really helped them. I mean, they went on like a 5-6 game win streak. Looked really good during that streak. Didn't they beat us?
Pretty sure they beat the Lakers in that streak. They beat the Nets too in that streak. I'm pretty sure. So that's what I mean. Like they've shown flashes of being a really great team. It's just that they started out the season so bad that right now they're out of playoff contention. But I do think that they will get it together the second half and will get themselves either at the 8th seed or right outside of it and possibly be in one of those playing games in the play-in tournament. So I'm predicting the Wizards to be the 9th seed to end the season, playing in one of those play-in games, tournament games, and finding a way to make it in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're only 6 games below 500. Considering where they started,
that's what I mean. Impressive. And I feel like it could happen. Also, if that does happen, I do think that will help Bradley Beal's MVP case for the way he's been playing this season. So hopefully that happens. That's a very bold prediction, but I do see it happening. And then for the 10th seed, I had the Bulls.
Yeah, their win streak was they beat Boston, they beat Houston, they beat Denver, they beat Portland, they beat the Lakers.
Okay, so the Nets weren't in there. Okay, yeah.
That was their 5-game win.
Pretty good teams, playoff teams right there. And they're currently not a playoff team, so that's pretty good.
They also beat the Clippers.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean.
That last game they played, they beat.
Telling you, they've been playing really well to end that first half of the season. So I'm not sleeping on the Wizards. I know a lot of other people will, but I'm not going to sleep on them this back half of the season.
Hey, you say the Bulls are your last team, right? The 10th seed.
I think there are going to be a lot of people who don't agree. Okay. I think there are going to be a lot of people who don't agree with having the Wizards over the Bulls, but the Bulls is just so iffy. Zach LaVine is playing out of his mind, but the Bulls are just really iffy and they're young, and I don't know. I think a team that'll be better in the playoffs will be the Wizards, and I think the Wizards will try and prove that if they get a chance to play in one of those play-in games. So I'm predicting the Wizards to sneak their way in the playoffs this year. How about that?
What, you're predicting them even win the play-in game?
Predicting the Wizards to find a way to make the playoffs this year. Will it happen? I don't know, but I'm gonna.
That'll really be something, especially if they're playing against the Nets in the first round and they got Russell Westbrook versus KD.
Yeah, they wouldn't win it, but I mean, at least they made it. And again, like you said, how compared to how they started off the season, for them to find a way to make the playoffs is huge. It'll help more people want to come there. It'll show good signs of chemistry between Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. Like, it'll help them out. It'll help the morale of that team. So I hope they make it. Will they? I don't know, but that's my prediction.
Right.
So my predictions for the West.
Okay.
I'm gonna go out on the limb and I'm gonna say the Lakers will be the 1 seed. I think the Lakers. Now again, this is another team that I'm predicting to be the 1 seed if they're fully healthy. So this is with a fully healthy Anthony Davis, no other injuries than anybody else. I think they'll find a way to make a push to be the 1 seed in the West.
Fully healthy. Fully healthy. I don't think nobody in that country
No, of course
beating
not.
that team. I don't. And the only reason I say in that conference is because the Nets have 3 stars, and I don't even think that defensively the Nets can even keep up. The Lakers defense versus that Nets offense is going to be something to watch though. If they do make it to the finals, because that Nets offense is something special, and so is the Lakers defense. But I don't think that the Nets can stop the Lakers offense when they're clicking either. If they're not stagnant, they get on my nerves sometimes with that. But if they're not stagnant, they can be one of the best offenses.
I agree with you. So if they're fully healthy, I think that they'll find a way to be the 1 seed in the West. Do I think they really care about the 1 seed? No.
I mean, I guess the Clippers can beat them too.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, true.
So
but that's the only thing about the Lakers is you can't go off things that you see in the regular season with them because they're a completely different team come playoff time.
I don't know.
So everybody's just gonna base what they base what they think about the Lakers based off. Oh, I saw what they did with the Nets twice this year. Saw what they did with the Clippers twice this year, or 3 times this year. Didn't like what I saw, so I'm gonna base it off that come playoff time. And you can do that, but the Lakers clearly proved to you last year that if you go by that, you'll be wrong. I mean, they split the season series with the Clippers last year, 2-2. Lost the first 2 games, the first half of the season. Won the last 2 games, the back half of the season. Played phenomenal in the playoffs and won the championship. Legit, a completely different team from the regular season to the playoffs. 2 different Lakers teams. So I think the Lakers will be the same way again this year. People will overreact to them losing certain games. The Lakers will not care. But then come playoff time, the Lakers will be a different team. Because if you really think about it, like the Lakers are one of the few teams that you haven't seen at their peak yet this year. Maybe the only game you could say you somewhat saw them at their peak was when they played Houston. When LeBron hit that shot and then turned around and looked at the bench, and then James Harden was out of there after that. That made it be the closest game we've seen to their peak. Whereas we've seen the peak with the Nets, whether it's their 3 stars or it's 2 of their stars and their role players, you've seen their peak. Say the same thing about the Clippers. You haven't really seen the Lakers peak yet. And then the Jazz have pretty much been peaking all season. So I think you haven't really seen that yet from the Lakers. I think they'll show that to you the back half of the season in the playoffs. And I think they'll be the 1 seed if they really won. For the 2 seed, I got the Jazz. I think the Lakers will overtake the Jazz, but it'll be by like a game or a half game or a game. It'll be close. I think the Jazz really do care about keeping that 1 seed. And will pretty much do all they can to keep that 1 seed. Mm-hmm. But again, it'll be tougher this go around keeping that 1 seed than it was the first half of the season. But if they're the 1 seed, I can see it. For the 3 seed, I got the Clippers. Clippers have been great this year, but like, I don't know. I thought that they could be a 1 seed type of team, but even with the Lakers having their troubles and going like 2-5 without Anthony Davis, they're still the 3 seed in the West right now, like the fourth or 5th best overall record in the NBA. And the Clippers hadn't really had any troubles like that yet. They're only 4th in the West. I don't really know. I think I see them moving up for sure, but I don't think I see them moving past the 3rd seed at all. But again, like we said earlier, they're a team who it doesn't matter where they're seeded, they're going to be dangerous. I think the 4th seed, I got the Suns. Suns could be a 3 seed by the end of the season. Don't really know if it'll happen. Again, I think they're another team that teams are going to play differently this half of the season compared to the first half because they've seen them. They're a completely different team with CP3 right now. Now that teams are seeing that, they're going to play them a lot tougher, especially right before playoffs. So I don't see them dropping anything less than the 4th seed, though. They could be a team that could take the 1 seed, too. I mean, they're currently the 2nd seed. behind the Jazz. They could take the 1 seed also with the way they've been playing. So we'll see what happens. I got the Blazers at the 5th seed. Yeah, they're not going any higher, but we don't see them getting any lower either. Got the Nuggets as the 6th seed. Only reason why I got them as the 6th seed is just the way they've been playing. I don't really see them.
So you think the Nuggets? Think the Nuggets stay where they are?
I think the Nuggets will really be dangerous come playoff time. Again, they also say that.
I think they okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I think they'll be really dangerous come playoff time. Even though they're 6th seed and that may not be where they thought that they would be going into this season, they'll turn up come playoff time for sure. So as long as they're not in that play-in talk, they'll be fine. 7th seed, I got the Spurs. I think they're currently the 7th seed right now also. I think they'll stay there. I don't really see them going any higher. They haven't been phenomenal this season, but they do have a great head coach. He's going to make sure the way they play, they're going to keep up that level of play, but I don't see them getting any better, really. So I see them being the 7th seed. 8th seed, I got the Mavericks. Like I said before, they're just so hit or miss, so I can never really tell with them. They can stay at the 8th seed or they can drop one of the two. I'm not sure what they'll do. Hopefully they won't drop, but it could happen. They're hit or miss. Go ahead.
Also, I want to replace. I completely forgot about the Spurs. So I want to replace the Blazers with the Spurs in the play-in and have the Blazers firmly in the playoff.
That was my fault. I forgot that they were 7th. I completely forgot. But okay, I can see that. So for the 8th, I got the Mavericks. 9th, I got the Warriors. It's crazy that even though technically them being in the 9th seed, you're like, oh, they're out of the playoffs. But if they get a chance to play in the play-in tournament, whoever they play, they'll beat. I mean, it's hard to go against Steph Curry and Draymond Green. They've done this before. They've been there multiple times.
And I also think they'll have a chance to beat the 1st seeded Utah Jazz if that came down to
okay.
It. But
I like that. So even if, like, let's say the Warriors and Mavs switch and the Warriors are 8 and the Mavs are 9, the Warriors will find a way to make it into the playoffs. How about that? Let me just put it that way. Whether they're the 8th seed, that 9th seed, they could get to that 7th seed, but it's so hard with that team. Like Steph could drop 30 or 40 in a game, and they still have a chance to lose just because the people around him aren't doing as much as he's doing. Draymond's not. It's not 2016 Draymond. Draymond's not dropping 35 to win. He's assisting more and he's rebounding more. And he's just being a floor general. But
that is going.
I mean, outside of that, it's Kelly Oubre is not dropping 30, and neither is Andrew Wiggins. So
yeah, and you just said you don't think that they missed the playoffs. So when they get to the playoffs,
depends on who they play. If they got to run into the Lakers first, no. If they run into the Jazz, they got a chance. But I still like that Jazz team in comparison to that Warriors team. Don't think it'll be easy for the Jazz by any means if they match up with the Warriors. I think it'll be like a 7-game series, but I think the Jazz team just has a little more than the Warriors right now, especially with the Warriors not having Klay Thompson still. So
let's say put it this way: if the Jazz beat Steph Curry in the first round, I'm a believer now. Put it that way.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
I believe that they're a real contender.
Okay.
That's just the high regard I put Steph Curry in, I guess. I don't know, but we'll see what happens.
I mean,
it's an interesting dynamic.
It is. He deserves
the
that
Warriors,
too. So
yeah, the Warriors being in the position where Warriors with a healthy Steph Curry being in the position where you're worried about whether they're going to make the playoffs or not. That's just a weird position to be in. I just don't see them missing it.
Right.
And when they do make it, if they do match up with the Jazz or like the Suns. Maybe I think the Suns have a better chance with Chris Paul to beat the. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Utah. I'm just saying like it's just something I just got to see first. And I said that a few podcasts ago. You got to show me before I believe in you.
Right.
And regular season, and you showing me in the regular season, it's like Paul George. Paul George can play all he wants, all of his mind, all he wants in the regular season. But until I see it in the playoffs, I'm just not gonna believe it. And it's just the same with the Jazz.
Okay. I can see that. And then for that,
but then again, it was also the same with the Heat. And the Heat proved me wrong. So it is. We'll see.
Yeah, only time will tell. But regardless, how about this? If the Warriors get a chance to make it into the playoffs, they're going to be dangerous.
Yeah.
People are going to try to sleep on them, but you can't. So I get that they've got some woes right now. They're very up and down, but if they have a chance to make it into the playoffs, they'll find a way to get in. For sure. So for that 10 spot, because you talked about having the Pelicans possibly being in the play-in tournament, right?
Yeah.
I think the Grizzlies will overtake the Pelicans to be in the play-in.
I had the Grizzlies in there.
Oh, you had the Grizzlies in there too.
Okay, yeah. Remember, I took the Grizzlies out. I took the Pelicans out for the Grizzlies.
I forgot. Yeah, I put the Grizzlies. The reason why I picked the Grizzlies over the Pelicans and the Thunder is because the Grizzlies have a better road record. I think their road record is like second best behind like the Lakers. And the only reason why I say that's big is just because by the time the playoffs start, there may be some cities who do allow fans there. And even though there are no fans now, I just don't think that's something that'll affect a team like the Grizzlies and can help them out in the playoff tournament. So I think the Grizzlies will be one of those teams to be in that play-in tournament. So I picked them to be the 10th seed in the West by the end of this year. Will it happen though? I'm not sure. But I do think they have a better chance than the Thunder or the Pelicans to do it though.
Right.
So yeah, those are my predictions for the West. I think they're pretty accurate, but they could change a lot. I do think that top four stays the same, just like the East. The Lakers, Jazz, Clippers, Suns are going to continue to stay in that top four. That won't change. The order of it will probably change compared to mine, but those are definitely the top four teams in the West. And then you can also argue that those are really the top four teams in the league besides like the 76ers and Nuggets, really. But I know there are people who will argue that the Jazz, since they had the number one overall record, being better than the 76ers and the Nets. And there are some people who even argue the Suns being better than the 76ers and the Nets right now. So,
yeah, I'm not one of those people. I know I'm one of those people that don't think the record necessarily matters.
No, of course not.
Would you watch the team play? You know who the best teams are, and you know when teams are coasting, and you know when teams are put. Like, just because you give everything you have and win a lot of games don't mean you're the best team. Ask the Milwaukee Bucks. That's just I've seen Milwaukee do this. Milwaukee scarred me. I get it because I've seen them do this in the regular season time and time again, and then get to the playoffs and do nothing. So that's why I am with the Jazz. You just have to show me first, man.
Okay, I respect it.
But if you show me, I'll give you your props. I'll come over here and I'll give you your props. Say I was wrong. Just do it first.
Yeah, that's all it takes. They got a chance. Again, they're playing better basketball than they were last year for sure. Everybody looks even more comfortable with each other this year than they did last year. So things could change come playoff time. I don't really know. Do I have them making it out of the West? No, definitely not. It's definitely only going to be either the Lakers or the Clippers. That's it. I like and respect everybody else, but there's nobody out west that I can put over the Lakers or the Clippers. And then, to be honest, in the East, there's nobody I could really put over the Nets or the Sixers. Like, only one of those two is going to represent the East. And to the way the Nets have been playing, it really looks like it's really going to be the Nets. Mm-hmm. But I will admit that the 76ers have a good chance of derailing that. But even that, to me, is a stretch. Right. To be honest, I really got the Nets making it out. even if I may not have them being the first seed going into the playoffs, that it don't matter with them, man. They got 3 superstars. You got Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden. You could be the 8th seed and they would still be a threat and really great in the playoffs. So,
all right, yeah. This could be a whole nother podcast though. So don't give.
Oh no, I'm not. We'll have another podcast for our playoff predictions. So those are just my end of the year predictions. Teams I think will be in the playoffs. Teams I think will play in that play-in tournament. I really do think the Wizards are going to find a way though.
I'm glad you went so in depth because I definitely didn't. I just did top 4 and then bottom 4, as in like play-in tournament.
Yeah, no, I had to explain it a little bit.
Because to me, the middle 5, 6, 7 really don't matter. Only reason 7 matters is because it's a part of the play-in.
True. I mean, I want to say it doesn't matter, but then you got teams like the Heat last year being a 5th seed, coming and shocking the world.
Yeah, you're right.
And that could happen again.
You're right, I guess.
Like, it's hard to say it won't.
I guess.
It's so hard to say it won't.
Especially another COVID year, you ain't got to worry about travel. I mean, you do got to worry about travel. You ain't got to worry about fans in the arena. So you basically playing. It's basically no different home and away other than travel.
Exactly.
That's another. Because I think that's the one thing that helped the Heat the most. The fact that they didn't have to go to Milwaukee. The fact that they didn't have to go to Boston. With people.
True. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. Them not having to play in arenas that get crazy.
Yeah, and those. Right, exactly.
That's a good point.
I don't think they might have still won, but I don't think they would have handled Milwaukee like that if they had to go to Milwaukee.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Or even Boston.
Yeah, because Boston does get crazy come playoff time. You're right.
Yeah.
So that's a valid point. I agree with that. But we'll see though, because you see how Texas just opened back up completely. So I don't know how Adam Silver is going to handle things come playoff time, but
see, I don't think that people you got to think about the fact that I don't think that Greg Popovich will be okay with the Spurs selling out arenas.
Okay.
I don't think Mark Cuban is going to sell out Dallas arena. The only one you got to worry about probably is Houston.
True.
But I don't know what they think in that front office or whatever to know. I just know that people like Mark Cuban and Greg Popovich are going to just drop everything and put thousands of people in these arenas.
True. Okay, true. Good point. All right, you got anything else to add?
No, I think that's it. You got anything else?
No, I just hope my Wizards prediction is correct. That's all I know.
Do you want to talk about Blake Griffin or no? Does he really? I mean, obviously I know that he makes a difference. He's going to contribute to the Nets, but people act like he's still Blake Griffin from 2010 jumping over cars.
Right. No, he's not necessarily that Blake Griffin, but what if he played... Actually, he didn't really play bad versus the Lakers this year.
What kind of role do you think he had?
I don't really know, because if I'm being honest with you, when it comes to the 3 stars playing, they're the 3 main scorers, and everybody else pretty much just has to play defense, and only one of those other people are getting a bucket, and it's most likely DeAndre Jordan. So with that being said, I don't know how much he factors in. I mean, maybe he becomes a really great defender. I don't know. I can't really say.
I think Griffin's not gonna become a great defender. He's gonna. I think it's gonna help him playing with all these stars because you can't really forget about Blake Griffin. He's not a scrub,
right?
So you can't just leave him. He's gonna do his thing if you're focusing on KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. And he's gonna be free to do his thing. But in terms of people saying, "Oh, Blake, this, and that about Blake Griffin," like he's still all-star Blake Griffin. I'm just like, yeah, he'll help, but it's not like they just got, a real 4 star, like they have a big 4 now.
Right. I don't know. How about this? Time will tell. You never know.
You
It's
never know.
it's easy to
We'll
doubt
see.
people, but then you never know how like them playing with a certain team or a certain squad may make them look. Like think about when Rondo got with the Lakers and then played in the playoffs this year, or last year.
Oh yeah, he can do something like that. He can be like a Rondo type where he affects most like in a short playoff series except for the big long regular season. But that was Rondo's value. Rondo, he was good in those short bursts
Right.
instead of the long haul of the regular season. Maybe that can be Blake.
Yeah, maybe that's all they need Blake Griffin to do, especially like come playoff time for them. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch. We'll see what happens. This has been another episode of The Point.